Hello, everyone. This is Bob Lowe, CSIA Executive Director. Thank you for attending the November CSIA webinar. Today's webinar will provide information on the Project Time and Material Accounting Initiative that started earlier this year. Be sure to ask your questions in the Q&A box as opposed to the chat box. The host and sponsor of our monthly webinars is Software Toolbox, a CSIA partner member. Software Toolbox helps system integrators lower their risk on projects that involve software by providing them a unique mix of off-the-shelf software products and rapid response technical support that minimizes the need for custom code and lowers field startup time risk. I would like to introduce today's webinar presenter, Don Roberts with Exotech in Waterloo, Ontario, Canada. Don is a control system integration industry consultant and CSIA certification auditor, and Kathy Bennett will participate with Don as a presenter also. Don has been actively involved with CSIA since the late 1990s. As one of CSIA's auditors, Don gets to see companies all over the world. He works directly with owners and senior management of hundreds of system integration companies, including facilitated strategic planning for a number of them. He has been involved with automation since the late 70s, including owning a large system integration company. So, without further delay, here's Don and Kathy.
Thanks, Bob. First, let me introduce Kathy. Kathy's with Exotech. She works in our financial services group, and she has years and years of experience in project accounting systems. She's implemented quite a few different systems, and has worked most recently with Epicor on some of the developments of their products. And Kathy's actually the one that's done a lot of the background research for this presentation, so I've asked her to join me just in case there's any real tough questions, because I'm sure I'm not going to be able to answer those. So welcome, Kathy. Bob introduced us a little bit, give you a little bit of the background, but let me, for those that are sort of new to the topic, give you a little bit more of it. So this year, during the CSIA conference in May, there was sort of a call that went out before the conference about, gee, what are we doing about accounting systems for systems integrators? So we pulled together a group and said, well, let's have a breakfast meeting and talk this through. Well, the breakfast meeting kind of got a little bit big and almost too big for the restaurant, so we kind of moved off to the side and had a little bit of a meeting around the need for a good accounting system for systems integrators. Of course, we started off by talking about, well, we need to be able to keep track of our financials, but then we also need to be able to enter time. And as soon as you start talking about, well, we need to integrate time with it, well, okay, we also needed to integrate materials as well. So it's a topic that very quickly, even for the small company, gets to be a very large, complex topic. So we decided to set up a group called Project Time and Material Accounting. We actually struggled hard to come up with a good name. And one of the observations we had was that even though there's small companies, the small companies have big needs and complex needs, but in all likelihood, we're going to see packages that are going to be broken down into a small company, a medium company, and a large company. And that's primarily based around how much people can afford. As it turns out, as we started doing a little bit more research, we found that definitely there's going to be a small company package that's necessary, but the medium and large, we're seeing that actually combine into probably just a single size of company. If you're looking in the accounting industries, a large company is something that's around $1 billion company, so we're probably not going to see too many of the CSIA members needing something like that. Interestingly enough, there we go. Challenge getting my slides to move forward. Project Time and Material Accounting, then after we set up that group in the connected community, and I encourage any of those that are on the call that haven't actually gone to the connected community and participate, look it up. It's PTMA, Project Time and Material Accounting for Systems Integrators. and join that community and get involved in some of the conversations. One of the things that we did right after the conference was just do a quick poll of what are people using for accounting systems, sort of the back end of it, the GL, AR, AP, that sort of thing, and also what are people using for time tracking and time entry. We collected that together, put it into a spreadsheet, and you'll find that spreadsheet actually available on that community. I've got a link on the PowerPoint presentation that kind of points to it, but the easiest thing is to join the community and then look in the library, and there's a spreadsheet in there that'll have all the information. So the spreadsheet tells you kind of what the accounting system is, what the time entry mechanism is, and then also a column for the company name of the company that participated. And I think we collected somewhere in the neighborhood of 20, 25, 26 different companies, but the vast majority of the smaller integrators were clearly using a QuickBooks type of solution. So then from there, we set an objective to establish a cost-effective solution for industry, something that is tailored specifically for systems integration industry, but can't be something that's going to cost the company $250,000 or $500,000. It has to be within reach for the smaller integrators as well as the mid-sized ones. And we also wanted to work with the vendors, the existing vendors, to get some recognition that this industry actually exists. When you go out and talk to a lot of the vendors, they'll slice their market up into all these different industries, but you never see control systems integrators or systems integrators as an identified industry. So that was one of the things we needed to make happen. And then once we've got them identifying this as an industry, encourage them to create specific solutions or configurations for this particular industry. And by doing that, hopefully driving some of the costs down and some of the pain of implementation of the packages. And then also there was the recognition of having to have a range of sizes. There really wasn't going to be one size fits all. Another objective that I wanted to make sure we kept in mind was tying whatever the vendors are doing back to some of the other initiatives that CSIA has going on. And in particular, things like the best practices, making sure that the accounting packages could track to sort of the project methodologies, and that kind of implementation was relatively straightforward. But also, it would be great if these packages could tie back to CAPEX, the KPI system that CSIA has. And in the case of QuickBooks, there's a QuickBooks connector that allows you to upload your data from QuickBooks into CAPEX. So that's the kind of concept that we want to have, is as tight as possible integration between what the vendors are putting out there and what CSIA defines as being good practices for the industry. So our current focus was to go out and confirm that the vendors do have a desire to go vertical. Been there, done that. There's no question that most of the vendors have identified that even though their packages are very generic and can cover a broad range of industries, the successful implementation required a fair bit of tailoring for specific industries. And so you'll see most of the vendors actually putting out packages that have sort of a focus in on maybe the healthcare industry or engineering industry or whatever. It's the same general package, but it's been pre-configured somewhat for that particular industry. So with that, we looked out and we saw three vendors that were fairly either well-known in the industry or very receptive to participating in what we were talking about, and they represented the different sizes of organizations as well. And I'm going to get in and I'll talk to some detail on each one of these, but the three companies that seemed to be sort of the best targets were Tigerpaw, really focused in on the smaller companies. Deltek. Deltek is currently used by a good number of the CSIA members. And so it was kind of an obvious one. And then a package from Epicor called E9, which is sort of their latest development out of their manufacturing side of accounting systems and with project support. So those were the three areas that we thought we could target. One of the things that we found was, with the exception of TigerPaw has been pretty easy to work with straight on. Really, to go to the Deltek and Epicor companies, we really needed to approach that through the VARs. The VARs are the ones that define or that implement the systems and have the industry focus. We are certainly, I know in Epicor's case in particular, Epicor has been after us to say, okay, yeah, this sounds like a good area to pursue, help us define what that package is like, and we'll continue to move in that direction. But that is more of a longer-term type of approach. I see a couple of questions coming up here. What revenue levels do you consider small, medium, and large from Bob? Let me just quickly answer that. I think, Bob, that you're going to find the companies themselves are going to identify where they can, their pain point for an accounting system, let me put it that way. But typically you're going to see a smaller integrator looking at the QuickBooks type of a package. I'm going to say somewhere around $7 million and less. And then I really, as I mentioned, mid to large, I'm going to suggest that there isn't really a break there. It's everything greater than the $7 million or maybe even $10 million. Large companies would be you know, 500 million type of thing. So, and then Gina, for purposes of discussion, was considered medium. Okay, we talked a little bit about that one as well. The other bullet on this slide, I just wanted to quickly mention is, don't forget that there is a Section 179 of the tax code that allows you to deduct the price of software purchased during the 2012 tax year. Don't know a whole lot more about that. It's just something that has come up, and I wanted to make sure I got it on the presentation. Some people are asking, what's a VAR? Value-added reseller. So most vendors, it would kind of like be the equivalent of our distributors in our environment. So that's what a VAR is. Okay, so let me move on to some of the specifics, and I'll try and get through this without being too detailed, but if you do have questions, by all means ask them, and I'll defer to Kathy if we need to. So TigerPaw is a package, TigerPaw software. They don't have a financial back end. They integrate with a number of other financial systems, but they really focus on the front end of it. And you can see the 4 modules that they have. Good CRM, contact management, marketing type of thing. The quotes, sales, estimating, opportunity management, then moving into professional services, and then particularly very strong on service type organizations and service contracts and things of that nature. And it's really this module where you have your time and expense and billing. And then they have a fairly good inventory management for purchasing of goods. All 3 of the different vendors that we're looking at are SQL-based. The one thing that on TigerPaw is it can run on SQL 2008 Express, so a pretty minimal type of configuration, but only in environments where you have somewhere around 15 users. Client-server based currently. Maybe they will go to a hosted system somewhere in the future. But as I said, no financials. When you're putting in your projects, it's a code. It's like a numeric, so it's not a descriptive title for the project. Allows multiple quotes on a project, multiple billings allowed. phases, but once you start a billing, you can't change the billing method. Different kinds of billing, partial, progressive. And then the other thing to keep an eye out for when we're looking at systems is where you define the rates that you're going to be charging the customer. So is it defined at the customer level, or is it defined at the resource level, or at the project level, or at the actual activity that you submit? So this TigerPaw will allow at the customer, resource, and the actual time log level. A couple other points on TigerPaw. You can do time entry for internal tasks, time logs for sales orders. Purchasing, most items are purchased and considered inventory items, so it's the concept of buying it into inventory. You can purchase non-stock items, but TigerPaw will just basically create a SKU for inventory when you do it that way. Inventory supports multiple locations, warehouses, and serialization. So for a smaller package, this is this has got a lot of functionality, graphical scheduling, and board resources. Kathy has pulled together a white paper, goes into this in a little bit more detail, and what I'll do after the presentation, I'll get that up onto the connected community too, so that if you have any more questions relative to that. One of the things that's very important is as we continue to push these vendors to try and focus in on the industry, I think it's important for us to try and get single points of contact. So the person that we've been working with at TigerPaw, Shannon's been very, very good, super cooperative. And so here's her contact information. If you want more detail on TigerPaw, you want to get into it directly with them, I'd strongly recommend you contact Shannon and let them know that you're a CSIA member. You can reference me, and that way we will continue to keep the pressure on them to identify this as a valid industry to go after. There are some pretty good demos available on their website as well, and I think they have a brief demo that you can go through like 15 minutes or so and then move on beyond that to, say, half an hour. Just check for questions. The next one, going up level a little bit in terms of the size of the company, and so this is what we would see in a company 7 million or greater, or sort of a level 1 if you've been certified type of package. And I do want to let me just stop at this point and say that there are a lot of other solutions out there. Much like chart of accounts and everything else in this industry, there aren't real standards that have been developed, so there's a ton of different vendors out there, and I encourage you to look at that spreadsheet that's on the connected community to get some sense of that. But we've picked these three to focus our efforts on. So Deltek, their product is called Deltek Vision. There's the Deltek website here. There's currently a Deltek users group on the CSIA community, and if you do have Deltek and you haven't joined that group, I highly recommend you join it. It's a reasonably active group. If you have a question, I've noticed people have been fairly responsive at getting answers back to it. Our challenge is I've tried for quite some time to get direct contact back to Deltek to see if I can get them moving on this initiative, and I haven't had any success or even any response. So it just reinforces the fact that we need to go through the VARs in order to actually see the change occur. Some of the points on Deltek. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on Deltek because there's, as I said, some good information through the users group, but it's very strong industry focus. If you look at the VARs, they verticalize very well. Engineering, government are a couple of areas that you'll commonly see them focused in on. Financials are built in. It's pretty good for most things, but it's has a reputation of being a little bit weak on the materials side. And I think as one of the members had said that it's got all the modules you need, but maybe not world class on any one of them. So the VARs that we're looking into that would be Deltek Vision VARs are Full Sail and Silver Ridge. There's been a little bit of a consolidation in the VAR industry here, and so I think Full Sail has absorbed 2 or 3 of the other VARs. So those are the guys that we're going to go after. I haven't, based on my schedule, I have not had time to get into the Deltek VARs in any great extent. So if there's people that are willing to volunteer and help and push this concept through, this is probably an area where we could. I'd be happy to take any help I can. So let me move to the third product then that we've seen out there and seems to be pretty interested in the industry and interested in getting a vertical, and that's Epicor. Epicor actually has been around this industry for a long time. As a matter of fact, I think some of their senior management even come out of Rockwell Software environment. Their background, they've been used by a number of integrators in some of their prior products, but this is a totally new product. It comes out of the manufacturing side, so its real strength is going to be from there. This chart may be a little bit difficult to see all the bits and pieces, and I will make sure that this chart is also loaded up onto the community so that you can explore it a little bit further. But you'll see that it covers everything from the HR side of it to CRMs to good financial background, planning and scheduling, including project management, and very, very good manufacturing or materials management. So again, runs on SQL 2008, Crystal reports, also Microsoft's reporting services. You can get, you can buy it in multiple different kinds of configurations, whether it's software as a service or hosted or run it in-house. Supports client server, mobile. Financials are built in, much like the Deltek has financials built in. Multi-currency, multi-company, multi-organization. So it has the ability to expand quite a lot. Billings, time and materials, cost plus, fixed price, all the different kinds of contracts that you might want to consider. Revenue recognition for percentage completion, and then purchasing is. I would say when you look at the material side of it, this is certainly world class in terms of what it offers there. The VAR that we've been working with for the Epicor product is the Success Partners. I think they're the largest or second largest VAR for Epicor in North America. And the contact that we have there is John Pradish, and John is actually the owner of the company, so we've got a pretty good contact in John. And so here's his contact information and their website. Here's a demo link, so if you want to get a demo of the actual software, you can look at it at this site, and then you can contact either Kathy or you can contact John, and they'll pull together some tailored demonstrations. And again, as I said in the past and the other one, it's important for us to try and focus how we communicate back to these vendors so that we don't have it spread out all over the place, and they don't get the sense that there's a real industry here. Oops. So next steps. We've been doing this kind of as background tasks and during our day jobs. So one area where we really need to do make some progress is making sure that Deltek is focused on this CSIA industry. We've got a lot of members that are using it, so how do we go back to Deltek and get them to pre-configure or as much as possible pre-configure a solution that is a CSIA-friendly solution. And we'll continue to push with, I'm certainly going to continue to try and get into the Deltek arena, but we're going to push with the Epicor and the TigerPaw. Work with them to show them best practices, show them the standard chart of accounts, get them familiar with concepts like CAPEX and everything like that. And by doing that, if we can get them to package up these solutions, I think we can see the prices of the solutions come down, or price of implementation, let me put it that way, come down significantly. So that's kind of our goal. So that's where we're at so far in terms of any progress on the PTMA. It's moving, and I'm actually quite encouraged by how the vendors have identified that they want to find these verticals as well and put together some pre-configured solutions. So at this point, I want to open it up to questions. I ran through the details of the different packages fairly quickly, and but I'm certainly open to questions.
Don, there's one question that came up by James Enyart. Is there a community group for Epicor similar to Deltek?
No, there's not on Connected Community, but we could certainly start one up.
Okay. Do you have any sense, Don, or even James, I wonder how many of our members use Epicor? Do you have any idea?
I don't have a good sense of how many there are. I think that QuickBooks is the largest, Deltek is the second largest, and then it spreads out pretty quick beyond that. So I do know, just a little bit of background. Back in the 90s, I want to say, Rockwell worked with an Epicor VAR to come up with exactly the same sort of solution, and there were a number of integrators, I'm going to say 14 or 15 integrators that actually jumped on that package. Now that is getting pretty old, and that VAR is no longer even around. So some of those integrators are still on Epicor, but I don't know the exact number. Okay, hang on here. There's some more questions here. Let me just see.
Bob Chapman.
Howard, do you have ballpark figures for the software, the implementation for each package? Yeah, Howard, good question. I've avoided putting too many dollars and cents numbers in here just because of the size of the companies and the configurations and everything. But what we're trying to target on this is get solutions that are, on the high end, 50,000 or less in terms of the overall package, and then in terms of the TigerPaw solution, even less than that. Kathy, have you got a sense of where we're at in terms of pricing for, say, TigerPaw and the Epicor? Are you on mute?
On TigerPaw?
Yeah. What's the pricing? Let's start with TigerPaw. What's the approximate pricing on that?
Let's see. You could probably get it under 10,000. That doesn't include implementation, and that also is dependent on the number of user license that you decide you need. So, like, if you got one CRM, one quote, 4 project, and one parts so one person. I think that's around 8,000 or 9,000. And that will give you full functionality. The thing with TigerPaw, you can buy the modules individually. The service module or the CRM module can stand alone. If you want quotes, you have to have CRM or service. If you want parts, you have to have service or CRM quotes and parts. So I would say for full functionality, you would want at least a single license of each module.
And what about in terms of the E9 Epicor?
Epicor, again, for that same kind of licensing, or for, like, say, 4 financial users, and maybe, I don't remember if we did like 10 project users. And again, both of these softwares are concurrent users, so people that you would have in the application at one time. I think we were under 35,000.
Okay. And then, Bob, you had a question about the current price point per Bob Chappell per module for these packages, and that's absolutely a great question, because one of the things that you will find, and as Kathy alluded to, is that there's just a huge number of modules, and you buy these packages in all of these individual modules. So one of the things we're trying to do is encourage, look through the modules and say, okay, which are the modules you really are going to need as a systems integrator, and try and package that up as tight as possible. But I think Kathy's kind of given you some sense of the overall price. The other thing to keep in mind, too, is whether or not you are looking at named users or concurrent users, because if you're named users, then you buy one license for everybody in the company. If you're concurrent users, not everybody's putting their timesheet in at the same time, or not everybody's putting their project managers are not necessarily on at the same time, so it changes the price. Brian, how does Epicor compare cost-wise to Deltek? I think you're going to find those ones being fairly comparable in price. Eric Martin, you mentioned the TigerPaw is not cloud-based. As a small company, I find that there is a security issue in-house with in-house solutions versus having IT outsourced. Is there any chance they have a solution for this or are moving towards this way? Kathy, you've talked to them about hosted services and things of that nature. What's the answer to that on TigerPaw?
They are looking at a possible hosted solution maybe sometime next year. They did just bring out, they're just announcing later this month, a mobile version, but I think that's just for the CRM. So not projects. Otherwise, it's client-server based. Totally, you have to have a client. You have to have a server installed and a client installed to get into the software. One thing I did notice, I don't know if that's a concern with people, is once you open a project, you can assign resources, but it doesn't matter who you assign to the project. Anyone can put time logs in on that. There's no locking down a project to only those resources.
Another question that has come up is if there's progress continues to be made on Epicor and not with Deltek, will there be a suggestion for CSIA companies to migrate to Epicor? No, not necessarily, Will. I think that that they each have strengths in different areas. So Deltek is really going to come at this from the manufacturing side, and so you got great, strong materials in manufacturing and project side. And Deltek is coming at it more from the professional services side. And so depending on the integration, one's going to fit, or depending on the integrator, one's going to fit a little bit better than the other. So I don't really see too much of a migration from one to the other. And in terms of progress. I expected to make progress on Deltek. I felt that Deltek was fairly well represented as it was, and so it's just a matter of me finding more free time to focus in on that. I expect that they'll be actually, the VARs at least, will be quite cooperative to that. Then, let me see, there's another question in here. Similar to CSIA insurance and legal advice offerings, it would be nice to settle on a few standard offerings to focus on sharing standard operating procedures. Absolutely. I think that if we can get these vendors to identify the industry, then we can start to get sort of standard reports for internal KPI analysis, as well as being able to integrate back to these surveys that CSIA is doing for benchmarking purposes and things of that nature. Standard procedures for being able to fit in with the best practices. So I agree with you, Will. I think that there's some great opportunity there. Diane, what products have support for mobile smartphones and tablets, not just CRM, but timesheet support too? Deltek does. Kathy, you want to, Deltek does, I think, on the environment. Kathy, do you want to talk to TigerPaw and E9?
Okay, TigerPaw does not have any mobile other than they're just bringing out the one for CRM. Epicor 9 has mobile interface. You can do reports over mobile. You can do updatable dashboards where they can actually update certain fields in the information. You can deploy almost anything to a mobile. They also have their manufacturing functionality of receiving, everything like that can go mobile to either a handheld or, barcode reading, or to a tablet or a smartphone. And then their Epicor 9 you can deploy to almost any kind of smartphone. They have the Android, they have the iPhone, they have BlackBerry. And then when you develop those screens, it doesn't require a custom or someone trained in the custom tools or anything. There's a whole tool set that comes with that. And you can decide which screens you want to deploy for mobile versus in-house or on the web. Any of those? Okay. TigerPaw, I don't know if they're going further with that or not. Theirs will be a hosted. I don't think they're doing software as a service. Again, most of these situations, the software as a service is another option with Epicor 9. You avoid the hardware fees, but I believe you can still deploy on mobile with software as a service.
Okay. Eric is saying TigerPaw does have iPhone and web-based solution now. Okay, that's and that's good news, Eric. I think you're using the TigerPaw package, so it's great to get that feedback. Tenrock. Yeah, that's right.
They just released a mobile, but I thought it said it was just CRM. But maybe it's not. Maybe they release more.
Yeah, so Eric just put up a web link to the TigerPaw mobile video ASP. So, what are some of the things that, and it's a little bit challenging to put it through on the chat here, but if you want to drop me an email of what are some of the things that you'd like to see us really push on in terms of the vendors. Again, I don't know how I ended up championing this, but we're doing this all as volunteer work into CSIA. So anybody who is willing to help, would love to see that. But if there's some ideas of the things that you want us to continue to push on the different vendors, then by all means drop me an email and I'll stitch that into the conversations. My email is, most of you will have, but Don Roberts, all one word, no dots or spaces, at exotek.com. So. And the other thing is, get it into the connected community, use that. A question from Eric. Who supports project planning within their modules, Gantt charts, etc., linked to tasks? And I'm gonna guess, Eric, that your question on that is integrated right in the software as opposed to interface to Microsoft Project. Yeah. Okay. Kath, do you know, do any of them have Gantt charts built right into their package, or is it primarily designed to interface with a third party like a Microsoft Project?
There is a scheduling board that looks similar to a Gantt chart in TigerPaw. I don't think it's an actual I think it's more resources and projects, not project and task and subtask and things like that. Epicor 9 does integrate with Microsoft Project, but I don't know that there's a Gantt chart within Epicor 9.
Good question, and we'll add that to the list of questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are some of the discussions that could take place in the PTMA community.
Exactly.
As questions arise and research is done, I can see a lot of our members engaging and providing answers based on what they know, what their experiences are.
James is asking, or I don't know if he's asking or stating, it has a job scheduling board within Epicor. Was that a statement, James, or?
If we wanted to, we could unmute someone if they'd like. We could actually engage them verbally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, statement. It does support Gantt chart at the job and resource level. Super. So as Bob's saying, I think that if we can get some of this conversation going, I thought maybe the connected community would be a little bit more active than what it is, but if we can get more conversation going there, that would be very, very helpful, because it gives us the ability to then go back at the vendors and say, okay, here are the things that are important.
Mm-hmm. I would see this webinar as sort of reinvigorating the conversation in PTMA. Yes. Hopefully many of them, we had 40-some people on the line here, and hopefully many will start to engage in the form of questions or answers, and we all work together to come to a solution. I really like the one comment that was made, I forget who it was, in regard to CSIA sort of eventually championing one of these, or maybe two of them based on company size, and that way so many more of our members could help one another.
Yeah. Any other questions or suggestions, advice, or anything like that while we're on the call? We'll mention that Deltek has Gantt chart print capabilities as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, are there any additional questions or comments?
How does document management work with these products? That's a good question. In terms of document management, Eric, are you thinking of things from the from the proposal all the way through the project side of it, functional specifications and detailed design as well. And Kathy, maybe you want to talk to, do you have a sense of document management on the different products?
There are, I mean, is that what he's talking about, is moving from a quote to a project to?
Yeah, on the projects, everything from agendas to minutes to drawings to engineering to financials. So, using it as a central repository for not only your project accounting, but all of the documentation as well.
Almost like a SharePoint.
Right. I was going to say, Epicor 9, you have an option to do a SharePoint site with it, and it will fully integrate in with the SharePoint site. TigerPaw, I'm not positive on. In any of the demos that I was in, I didn't see anything there, but I think they will work with, I think you can always do a SharePoint site with them as well. Epicor 9, also you can do a, there is a separate software that you have to purchase, which is document management software. It is integrated into the system, and it can control incoming documents, approvals, so that you can truly have a paperless world. It's called Advanced Print Management, or APM, and you can build workflows through that. You can actually do an approval process the minute an AP invoice comes in. It may be scanned into the system so it knows it's there, and it actually says, okay, it's being routed right now, so you can follow it so it doesn't get lost and stuck on someone's desk. But I'm not sure at Deltek at all.
Yeah, well, maybe you can drop a quick note. Okay, Deltek has doc management module, which they don't have. Without it, doc management is weak at best. What about workflow, Will? Is there some workflow capability? I'll watch to see if Will has an answer.
Okay. On workflow for TigerPaw, you have to have the CRM or Pursuit module to have their workflow. On Epicor 9, there is a full module that comes with the system that's called BPM, Business Process Management, so that you can add steps in. Some of it's built already, but then you can actually add additional steps in. We need this approved. We need this to go here. We need this to happen in any of the modules.
And I will say that the workflow, there is some workflow capabilities in Deltek, and they did say that it works fairly well. Also, there was a comment from Jack Lawson that you can use from the Gantt chart a drop-down within timesheets, so here's to streamline time entry. Good stuff. So any advice or any recommendations that people have in terms of what they'd like to see as the next steps, in terms of frequency of update, in terms of what progress has been made, any help, any volunteers, that would be good. Eric, you seem to have a lot of really great questions, so if you can pass that through, that would be super as well.
Don,
and I encourage you to use a connected community.
Yeah, Don, maybe something that could be done would be, from these questions that are being asked today about capabilities, I wonder if that list could be sent to each of the 3 providers and ask them to reply and build a matrix, and maybe even turn it into sort of like a Wikipedia concept where our members could chime in and add to what the vendors say based on the experience of our members.
Yeah, Monica, is there some way to get the the comments that have been made in the Q&A?
Yes.
Great.
Very good.
Yeah, great. That would help. We'll filter through that and pass that through too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe over the next couple of weeks, if those who were on the webinar today that have interest in this topic, that could post their questions, and a list of questions could be built and sent to the vendors. Of course, in the case of like Deltek, where we seem to be working with multiple VARs, not just the supplier, namely Deltek. I'm not quite sure who we would send the questions to, but it would be a good way to compile Q&A and then be able to add community member content as well. Again, kind of like a Wikipedia.
Yeah.
I think that would be a good resource for our members.
Yeah, exactly. And a couple of things, a couple of thoughts there. One is that I obviously monitor that so I can pass that through, or potentially even get the people like Shannon and John to participate and answer directly. Mm-hmm. There was another point that James brought up, and that was any advice on how to make time entry process less stressful on the engineers. So much is dependent on the point of time entry for T&M billing within Epicor, but actually within any package. And James, if I could come up with the answer on how to get people to enter their time on time consistently, 100%, then I'd just be in that business because I'd make a lot of money. It's without a doubt the biggest challenge in the industry. Thank you, Howard, for your comment there too. So we're coming up on the hour here. So again, if there's any comments, get them in the connected community. Feel free to fire them off directly to me. We'll collect these notes and we'll get them get them off to the different vendors and see if we can get some answers back to these questions as well.
Okay. To all the attendees, thank you very much for your participation. My hope is that you have several takeaways to help you in your approach to implementing project tracking. So be sure to join the PTMA community, contact the CSIA office for assistance if necessary, and doing so will keep this PTMA initiative moving forward in a coordinated way. If you use Deltek, talk to your VAR about engaging in this initiative too. It sounds like we need to be pointed in a direction there. So Don and Kathy, thank you for the contribution of your time and expertise. We appreciate all that you've been doing to keep this moving forward, realizing it is on a volunteer basis, and we wish you the best. And thanks again to our host and sponsor, Software Toolbox, and particularly Monica Anderson in her debut as the CSIA webinar technical host. Well done, Monica. Be sure to complete the survey for today's webinar. It will arrive in your inbox within the hour, and it really only takes about 30 seconds to complete, and your feedback is necessary for us to make our continuous improvements. So in closing, here are a couple of quick bullet lists for you, items on the bullet list. Thursday, December 13th is a webinar on marketing by way of talk radio. The presenter is Todd Youngblood, marketing and sales guru. An actual radio interview with John Weber of Software Toolbox will be the guest during the interview during that webinar, so you'll get a sense of how it works. Next item, CSIA now provides our members with quarterly economic updates from Alan Bulu of ITR, Institute for Trend Research, and most of you know Alan from our conferences. Next item, CSIA now also provides our members with quarterly ARC Advisory Group Automation Index reports, and these reports provide the status of the automation market. And both ITR and ARC reports are newly added benefits of CSIA membership. Next item, I encourage you to participate in the CSIA statistics program. You've heard it mentioned today several times, called KPIX, and you can use that to benchmark your company's financial and business performance with your peers. And new to that program is a salary survey, and that is specific to the CSI industry, and participation in both of those can save you a lot of money. Lastly, Information and registration on the 2013 CSIA Executive Conference will open in December or January, but for now, save the dates of May 1 to 4, 2013. It will be in St. Petersburg, Florida. For your information, CSIA monthly webinars are archived at our public site, which is controlsys.org. And finally, if you have a suggested topic for a webinar, include your suggestion in your survey comments. This is Bob Lowe, CSIA Executive Director. Thanks again for attending. Goodbye.